Be honest, you've got a favorite F1 team, you know the drivers, the livery, every pit stop. But when they win, who actually cashes in? F1 is one of the most expensive sports on earth. Someone's pouring hundreds of millions into that car. So, who really owns your team? The answer's wilder than anything on track. You'd think owning one of these would cost a fortune. It doesn't. There's a Formula One team that once sold for £1, not a pound a share, £1 total. In 2008, Honda had burned through hundreds of millions on its F1 team, panicked in the financial crisis, and basically handed it to its own staff for a single pound. The next year, that team won both world championships. Today it's Mercedes, worth billions. And that's not even the wildest ownership story on this grid. A few years earlier, Ford spent a fortune on its F1 team, gave up, and handed it to a company that makes a fizzy energy drink for a reported $1. That team is now Red Bull, one of the most successful in history. So here's the question almost nobody actually answers. Who really owns the 11 teams on the modern F1 grid? Where did their money come from, and how did each of them end up here? The names on the cars are just brands and sponsors. The names on the ownership papers are something else. Dynasties, self-made billionaires, secretive funds, and entire countries. Grab a seat. Let's follow the money. First, let's kill the confusion that trips everyone up. Owning an F1 team is not the same as owning Formula One. The sport itself, the TV deals, the calendar, the trophies, is a business owned by an American company called Liberty Media. Liberty bought F1's commercial rights back in 2017 for about $4.4 billion. The teams are separate, 11 individual businesses that pay to compete and share out roughly half the sport's revenue. So Liberty is the landlord. The teams are 11 very, very expensive tenants. Now that we know who owns the sport, let's dive into the real question. Who owns each of the 11 teams? Pile 1. The car dynasties, old money manufacturers where the fortune was built over generations making cars. The ultimate example is Ferrari, the only team in F1 since the very first season in 1950, and it never left. But who owns it? Ferrari has been on the stock market since 2016, yet it's controlled by a holding company called Exor. Exor is the investment empire of Italy's Agnelli family, the dynasty that founded Fiat back in 1899. Here's how they got the keys. Enzo Ferrari needed cash to keep racing, so he sold half his company to Fiat in 1969. Fiat later became part of FCA, which spun Ferrari off as its own public company in 2015, and the Agnellis, through Exor, kept the controlling grip. On paper, Exor holds about 23.5%, Piero Ferrari 10%, and public shareholders the rest, about 66.5%, but Exor's special shares give it about 33% of the votes, so here's who really owns Ferrari. Next, Audi, brand new as a full works team in 2026. Audi belongs to the Volkswagen Group, the German colossus behind everything from the Golf to Lamborghini and Bentley, controlled by the founding Porsche and Piëch family. But Audi didn't build a team, and it didn't buy a champion. It quietly took over a plucky, underfunded Swiss team called Sauber and stamped its badge on it. A 100-year-old car maker using Formula One as a giant, very public research lab. And it didn't arrive alone, but I'll get to Audi's surprising co-investor in a minute. And then there's Alpine, the French one. Alpine is really Renault in a sportier jacket, run out of the historic Enstone factory in England that used to be Benetton. The French government even owns about 15% of Renault itself. But Renault sold a minority slice of the team to outside investors, including the private equity firm Redbird Capital and, no joke, the actor Ryan Reynolds. Yes, Deadpool owns a sliver of an F1 team, so Alpine is part French carmaker, part Hollywood side bet. Renault keeps 76%. The investor consortium, Redbird plus Ryan Reynolds, holds the other 24%. Hold that thought about governments, though, because actual nations show up soon. Pile 2, my personal favorite, the self-made billionaires. They didn't inherit a car empire, they took a single product and turned it into a global fortune. Exhibit A, Red Bull, which owns not one but two Formula One teams, Red Bull Racing, the champions, and their junior squad, Racing Bulls. And the company behind them is a genuinely bonkers story. In the early 1980s, an Austrian marketing executive named Dietrich Mateschitz was in Thailand when he tried a local energy tonic called Krating Deng, Red Bull in Thai. He partnered with the Thai family who made it, the Uvajas, each side putting in $500,000, and launched a fizzy Western version in 1987. That drink became a phenomenon, and to this day the company is split 51% to the Thai family, 49% to the Mateschitz side. It made Dietrich, before he died in 2022, worth over $27 billion, according to Forbes. So how does an energy drink end up with two F1 teams? It bought them cheap. Ford had sunk a fortune into Jaguar's team, got nowhere, and sold it to Red Bull in 2004 for that reported single dollar. A year later, Red Bull bought a second, smaller team, the old Minardi, as a training ground for young drivers. That's why Racing Bulls exists, a finishing school for future stars and a second slice of prize money. Two teams, bought for pocket change, now worth billions. So here's who really owns Red Bull: 51% the Tayuvidya family and 49% the Mateschitz side. Exhibit B, Aston Martin, the team of Lawrence Stroll, a Canadian billionaire. And here's what people get wrong: Stroll didn't make his money in cars. He made it in fashion, building Tommy Hilfiger and taking Michael Kors public in 2011, worth around $3.9 billion per Forbes. So, how'd he get into Formula One? Like a vulture. In 2018, one of the grid's underdogs, Force India, collapsed into bankruptcy when its owner's empire imploded. Stroll led a group that bought the team's assets straight out of administration, rebranded it Racing Point, then bolted the Aston Martin name onto it for 2021. Same factory, glamorous new money. So who owns Aston Martin? The exact split is private, but the best estimate is about 75% Lawrence Stroll and his U-Tree consortium, and about 25% minority investors. And one more self-made owner deserves a closer look: Haas, another billionaire who built the whole thing himself. Gene Haas is an American engineer, and he owns the whole team outright, 100%, no partners. He got rich making CNC machines, the computer-controlled tools that carve metal parts in factories worldwide. He runs the leanest operation on the grid, buying as many parts as the rules allow from Ferrari. And he's here, frankly, because a Formula One car is a 200-mile-an-hour billboard for selling machine tools to European factories. So here's who really owns Haas: 100% Gene Haas, another self-made billionaire, a machinist who really, really likes racing. Three products: an energy drink, a fashion empire, and a machine tool business, all turned into Formula One teams. Next, the money men, where the fortune is pure capital. Pile 3, the money men, finance and private equity, where the wealth comes from moving capital, not making a product. And the poster child is a shocker: Mercedes. You'd assume Mercedes-Benz owns the Mercedes team. It doesn't, not by itself. It's split three ways in roughly equal shares, about 33% each. One share is Mercedes-Benz itself. Another 33% is INEOS, the chemicals empire of British billionaire Sir Jim Ratcliffe, worth nearly £30 billion, built buying unglamorous petrochemical plants nobody else wanted. And the final 33% belongs to the team boss himself, Toto Wolff. The man on the pit wall calling the shots literally owns a third of the team. So here's who really owns Mercedes: roughly 33% each: Mercedes-Benz, INEOS, and Toto Wolff. And here's the beautiful part. Remember that Honda team that sold for £1 and won everything in 2009? That was Braun GP. Mercedes bought that team to become its works squad. A £1 money pit became the most dominant force of the modern era, 8 straight constructors' titles. Then there's the grid's great mystery: Williams. One of the sport's most famous names, founded by Frank Williams, 9 constructors' titles, family run for over 40 years. But in 2020, drowning in losses, the family sold to an investment firm called Dorilton Capital for a reported $150 million. And who's behind Dorilton? Honestly, we don't really know. It's a private vehicle that has kept its true owners deliberately out of the press. Someone owns a legendary F1 team, now reportedly worth over $1 billion, and would rather you never learned their name. And the newest money, Cadillac, the brand new 11th team for 2026. Everyone calls it the GM team, but General Motors doesn't own it. GM lends the Cadillac name and will build engines later. The real owners are an American outfit called TWG, led by financier Mark Walter, who also owns the LA Dodgers, with Hollywood mogul Thomas Tull, the man behind the Dark Knight films. And getting on the grid was a war. It began as a bid from the Andretti family with GM's backing. F1 rejected it in 2024 in a public, controversial fight, and it only got over the line when Walter's group took control and paid a jaw-dropping $450 million fee just for permission to join. So here's who really owns Cadillac, and General Motors owns none of it. Dynasties, self-made brands, and now pure money. But the biggest wallets of all, entire nations. Which brings us to pile 4. And this one should genuinely make you sit up. Nations, actual countries. Take McLaren. Right now, arguably the best team in the world. It was founded by a New Zealand racing driver, Bruce McLaren, back in the 60s, and built into a giant by Ron Dennis. But today it's controlled by Mumtalakat, the sovereign wealth fund of Bahrain, a Gulf kingdom of under 2 million people. That state fund rode McLaren to back-to-back championships in 2024 and 2025. Then, in 2025, Bahrain went further. teaming up with CYVN and Abu Dhabi State Fund to buy out every remaining outside investor. So here's who really owns McLaren: two Gulf states, an estimated 60% Bahrain's Mumtalakat, 40% Abu Dhabi's CYVN. When the team wins, the money ultimately flows to the Gulf. And remember Audi's mystery backer. Here it is: the Qatar Investment Authority, Qatar's sovereign fund, built on the country's colossal natural gas wealth. The very same fund that owns the football club Paris Saint-Germain and the London store Harrods. It's taken a 30% stake in the Audi team, with Audi holding the other 70%. So here's who's really behind it: 70% Volkswagen's Audi, 30% Qatar. So, on the 2026 grid, the wealth of Bahrain and the wealth of Qatar are both parked in the paddock. F1 teams have quietly become what football clubs already were: trophies for entire nations to collect. So step back and take in all 11 teams at once. A century-old Italian car dynasty, a German giant and its founding family, a French car maker with a Hollywood investor, energy drink money, twice, a fashion billionaire, a chemicals tycoon sharing with the guy on the pit wall, a secret investment fund, a baseball owner and a movie mogul, two Gulf nations, and one American machinist. That is who owns Formula One. And put together, it tells you exactly what the sport became. Because remember where we started: Honda gave a team away for £1, Ford let one go for $1. Those exact teams are now worth billions. Red Bull alone is reportedly valued around $6 billion by Sportico, and the whole grid together is north of $25 billion. The price of simply getting in went from basically nothing in 2004 to $450 million today. In about 20 years, F1 went from a money pit, the rich propped up out of ego, to a members-only club that dynasties, billionaires, private equity, and entire petrostates are lining up and paying nearly $500 million just to join. One of the most exclusive asset classes on the planet. The cars are the show, the ownership papers are the business. And now you know where the money really goes. If you enjoy pulling the curtain back on the money behind the things you love, follow the money and tell me below, which team's owner surprised you the most?